with my parents, and I'm thankful for that. So
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, and it's just one of those things where, we age and we age at different paces and things are, people understand things differently as they get older, and it's just part of that process, right?
yeah, I mean, maturity wise, I'm like 12, 13, and my body's, I don't know, 68.
Right,
So
right. I
it's
mean,
crazy.
there's that too. I think the other thing that's happened too is there's been this dramatic shift in what people are doing at what age they're doing things at, right? So like,
Sure.
if you think about it, like I remember, do you remember that show Alice? It was on. It was like a diner, truck stop diner
Yeah.
kind of situation.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So like those actresses in that show, when they were filming it, were all in their 30s. Right.
yeah.
That's what 30s looked like in the 60s. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
60s
Yeah.
and 70s.
Wow.
Right. Right. I mean, those gals look wore out. Right. And
Right, yeah.
and now,
They did, yeah.
right, and now you're like, now 30s is like super model material. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
for sure.
so it's just a very different. I mean, think about like some of the supermodels, like they are in their late 40s now, and they're still
Yeah.
getting crazy jobs still. So
Yeah.
there's just been this significant shift. I mean, I think about what I'm doing as a 50-year-old. My dad was almost 50. It turned 50 in like 3 weeks. My dad was not doing those things already when he was 50. He was already, kind of, I don't want to say retired, but he had stopped doing fairly active things already by the time he was that old. So,
Gotcha.
It's just a different, the world has changed and it's different for everybody. Speaking
Yeah.
of how the world has changed, I think that's a excellent segue.
Of course, you think it's an excellent segue. You said it. Shit. Good call, Ryan.
That's Welcome to MotoState Podcast, where we talk about motorcycles, life, and everything in between. That was perfect. That deserves a crack.
That away. Nice.
There. Oh, that was. Of course you think it's an excellent segue. You said it.
Pat your own damn back. Nice job. No. So today we're going to be chatting about the tattoo culture community, maybe a better way to put it, and how there's overlap and correlation between that and the biking community. A lot of similarities there. I feel a lot of similarities, and the commonalities between the two.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things is how much that's changed, right? I mean, I think
Sure.
that's the biggest thing. The biggest thing for me is how much that has changed, because it is significant. In my opinion, it's significant.
Yeah, I think when you look from when we were 15,
Sure.
20 years old,
Yeah.
it was a long time ago, in where how tattoos are accepted back then compared to now. I think, and then if you compare that to the biking community, like what people thought of bikers maybe in the 70s and 80s compared to what people biking now, riding bikes is changed quite a bit as well.
Yeah. So I think I have to like define this a little bit too, because I do think there's a difference, right? So I do think there is a difference between someone who has tattoos, right, and someone who I would say is tattooed.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is that I don't define my own point in my journey as having tattoos anymore. I consider myself tattooed. And what I mean by that is, like, someone that has 2 or 3 tattoos, right? That's I think that's how you describe that, right? Someone who has, like, I have a full sleeve on one arm, right? And significant work on the other arm. I don't have anything on my chest yet. I have one on my back, one on one of my legs, right? So because there isn't like a number associated. You know what I mean? No one looks at me and says, "Oh, how many tattoos do you have?" You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because I think once you've kind of eclipsed a certain point, it's not about how many you have. It's maybe about how much coverage you have. You know
Sure.
what I'm saying?
Yeah, if you got one continuous piece over your arm, that's one tattoo as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But that's one big ass tattoo, right? So
Well, or like I said, I would define it as being tattooed versus
Absolutely.
I have
Yes.
tattoos. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
I think I think there's a definition or a defining line between that right now. So, if you were to describe it from a professional standpoint right now, what do you think is acceptable in the professional world when it comes to tattoos?
So I'll speak from the banking world, which definitely is way more conservative, especially over the years when it comes to dress and all that. And that certainly has shifted quite a bit since COVID. But when I started banking in the mid to late 90s, I guess 1998, tattoos had to be covered regardless of where they were. So
Okay.
if you had one invisible, then it's a long sleeve shirt. No matter if it was you could be business casual on Friday.
Right.
If you had them on top of your feet and your shoes could show them as a female, like with a dress on or whatever, pantyhose, maybe, or maybe pantyhose were still just required. I up until, I worked for a small community bank in 2013, 2014 range, 2012. And they still required, if a female wore a dress, that they had to wear pantyhose. Sure. This was just a little over 10 years ago.
Or tights, right? You couldn't have
tights,
couldn't have bare legs, right?
Yeah, all of a sudden we were Amish or something. I don't know,
Right,
but so it's definitely changed quite a bit. I certainly more visible tattoos at times, or if it was close and you had a polo on, that was okay. But then I worked for a little bit of time for a bank based out of Canada, and they were as casual as you could be. It was wild. I was in training in Chicago, and untucked polo shirt the trader was wearing, full sleeve with a polo on. Nobody cared. A couple big, huge gauge earrings in. Nobody cared.
Oh wow. Okay.
And so, which I loved. I was like, this is great. Accept people for who they are. That doesn't make them less of a professional or less of a banker or a trainer or whatever they're doing. So it's
Sure.
definitely evolved. Nowadays, I go to the largest, every February I go to San Diego to the largest commercial real estate finance conference in the U.S. And I know that sounds really exciting to most people listening right now, but it's really great for my profession. And since COVID, guys are wearing nice jeans, dress shoes, button-up shirt, and maybe a sports coat, maybe not. And that's as dressed as you get. And that people with suits on or even slacks are a very small percentage.
Sure.
So it's definitely changed, and I appreciate it because I hate wearing a tie or any of that crap.
So let me tell you. So you explained what it was like before. What about now? So are visible tattoos okay now?
I think so. I have visible tattoos and on my arms, and they're seen when I wear a polo to a business lunch. If the meeting warrants that type of attire, and it's accepted. I've got clients who are, have a net worth of more zeros than I can add up, and they've got a full sleeve. Maybe I think one's got a neck tattoo. Whatever.
Sure.
So,
right.
It's just the world has changed in that regard, and I feel for the better, much better.
Sure. I think so. If I were to say if there's a line in the sand, I do still think there is a bit of a line in the sand. And I'm going to say there's 3 spots where tattoos would still be considered to be a little bit questionable or a little more questionable than other places. I think neck, face, and hand tattoos are the three things that still, that still kind of raise an eyebrow, even where they're acceptable. If from a professional standpoint, I still think those three spots are the ones that you still have to be cognizant about for it to really change the way that someone might view you from a professional perspective, right?
Sure.
And I think the least of those is hand, right? I don't think your hand tattoos are quite as as faux pas, but I think neck and face tattoos still speak to that next level where it's probably not quite as accepted in the professional environment as maybe a full sleeve would be, or that kind of thing. The other thing I thought has changed pretty significantly is the subject matter of the tattoos, which once tattoos became acceptable, I think the subject matter of the tattoos changed too, where they just don't look at them. You know what I mean? Like, I remember when I first started working in a hospital, they had a policy about facial piercings, natural colored hair, and what was it? Facial piercings, natural colored hair, and visible. And their policy was no offensive visible tattoos. Well, facial piercings and colored hair is pretty objective, right? I mean, that's
Sure.
a yes or a no. But a visible offensive tattoo means whatever they want it to mean when they lump it into their policies, right? So if they like you, it's fine. If they don't like you, it is a problem because your tattoos are visible.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a really good HR attorney drew that up.
Right, exactly. And I think that those policies were written specifically so that they could lump it in or throw it into something if they wanted to, right?
Sure.
But for the most part, I think that what you get yourself into in those situations is if they want to include it as a negative, they will. If they don't want to include it, they don't say anything about it at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I view it. Now, I think that what changed here's where I saw it change in the healthcare environment. I distinctly remember this. So I was working at a very specific institution. They had policies about natural hair color. They had policies about facial piercings. They had policies about tattoos. They hired me with visible tattoos, so they kind of grandfathered me in. And at one point in time, there was a nurse up on the floor that had a 3/4 length sleeve, and he was told he had to start wearing long sleeves. And he actually used me as an example. And he said, hey, Ryan that works down in radiology doesn't have sleeves that cover his tattoos. And at that time, my right arm wasn't sleeved. In fact, at that time, I had no visible tattoos below my elbows.
Okay.
So they were all, but if you've ever seen a scrub top comes up to about here, right?
Right. Yep.
So you could see most of my tattoos on my upper arms. And so when this guy used me as an example, I said, so they brought me into a meeting and they said, hey, Ryan, so-and-so on the floor is being, reprimanded for his tattoos. We need you to cover yours. And I said, okay. I said, here's the deal, though. I said, you also have a policy that says I can't wear an undershirt from outside of the hospital into surgery. So, we had to come in and change into surgical scrubs, right? And that's
Yep.
what we wore all day long at work. And I was not allowed to wear, a T-shirt that would cover up my sleeves. Even if it wasn't a long sleeve T-shirt, I wasn't allowed. I had to wear, a wife beater or a tank top underneath my top. I said, what policy would you like me to follow? Because you hired me with visible tattoos. Then you passed another policy about the no shirt underneath, which I used to cover up my visible tattoos. So now I don't wear that. But I can't, I said, I can't win here. I said,
Right.
If you want me to wear a shirt to cover up my tattoos, then you have to allow me to not go to surgery anymore. And they're like, well, I guess we can't do that, can we? And I said, well, there's your answer then. You can't have it both ways, right?
Sure.
So that was one kind of incident, right? So within about a year or so of that incident happening, the new group of surgical residents started that year. Mm-hmm. Okay. And this would have been in the early 2000s. Just so happens that this class of surgical residents had about 10 women and 7 men or 8 men, something like that, or 6 men. So I think it was 10 women and 6 men were in this surgical class. Of those 10 women, 9 of them had nose piercings. And within a week, they changed their policy, their facial piercing policy,
Sure.
because they weren't going to tell these highly touted surgical residents who they recruited from all over the country that they couldn't come work in their hospital because they had their noses pierced.
Yep, for sure.
You know what I mean? Fast forward to 5 years ago, and they had a surgical, or they had an emergency room doctor that was tattooed all the way up to his chin, full neck coverage. He had a full bodysuit essentially. Full sleeves on both sides, and he was a surgical, he was a emergency room physician. So I think that the change was forced upon them by physicians that they started bringing in, and then most recently, when I left the last hospital I was working at, about a year before I left there, they changed their natural hair color policy.
Oh, wow.
And within a week of them changing it, we had a podiatrist who was a female, and she showed up with purple streaks in her hair because her and her youngest daughter decided they were going to color their hair, and she had purple streaks in her hair. And she was, a 30-year-old, very young podiatrist. And, so, I think that personal expression has changed what that looks like. And I also think, as it became more acceptable in society, as our workforce became younger again, and more people were just showing up in the workforce, like, okay, well, if you say no tattoos, how many people are you removing from your workforce?
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's outside of blue collar or anything like that. You know what I mean? Your white collar workforce, it proliferated across the board, right?
Yeah.
To the point now where I would say there's probably age groups of people right now where there's more people without or there's less people without tattoos than with them.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that you'll see this anywhere in any kind of workforce that that they can, to a certain extent, drive change and drive policy change or whatever, just like work from home, right? Seen a lot of companies try to implement going back into the office, and they've had a step back and backtrack on those things, or at least offer a hybrid situation, because folks want to work from home. They want that flexibility, especially this time of year with kids out of school. Yeah, I mean, you can if enough people, if you got enough people wanting something or have something, then that'll drive change, just like it did there, just like it did in the banking world for me. And to your point, I think that it's less noticeable. These things don't stand out. Different color hair, visible tattoos, piercings, whatever. Those things just don't stand out. I mean, my daughter's 13, and she, people are covered in tattoos. She doesn't think twice about it. I watch her. I watch her reactions, and she doesn't think anything about it. And I'm thankful for that, because she's not judging. She's just taking that person at face value for who they are.
Right. And I think that, when you talk about them, like that society has changed, the idea of who gets tattooed now versus maybe who got tattooed before, right? So you had your subculture before, and I would say that bikers were in that subculture of tattooed people.
Well, let's step back. I mean, let's think about, like, really in American society where tattoos kind of started to really get off the ground was after
military.
World War II, yeah, military.
Yeah, military.
So talk about a subculture. You had folks coming home from World War II, looking to, a lot of them got tattooed while they were serving our country. And then there's quite a bit that obviously got into the motorcycle community because of that sense of brotherhood, and obviously, if you're joining a club, then you're probably getting a tattoo as well, or more. So and it kind of built from there. So I love the origins of that. So I think that I don't know. I just really like that.
Yeah, and I think it came from a sense of belonging, and I think now it's a lot more about personal expression. I know for me, it's personal expression, passage of time, right? I've marked different points in time in my life or different happenings or different events with it. You know, I've been tattooed with my wife. I made my daughter her first tattoo appointment and went with her when she turned 18.
Nice.
Which is very full circle for me because I got her name tattooed on me when she was about 2 months old, brought her into the tattoo studio and sat her in her little like car seat on a table. Yeah. While he was tattooing her name on me. So, I think that, that was a full circle moment for my oldest daughter and I, where I got tattooed with her when she was a baby.
Sure.
And then, when she was 18 years old. And so, and her and I will probably get some tattoo together at some point, coming up. She's kind of already been talking about that. So, I think that, it's definitely a self-expression. I think it's definitely a mark of passage or time for people now, right? I think there are people that collect artwork. I think there are people that like, very specific artists that do tattoos and they collect their work. And so, I think people use it for cultural reasons. I think there's all kinds of reasons people are getting tattooed now, but it's become so much more acceptable in the professional world across the board that, like you said, companies have had to change their policies. We look at things and see it differently than we did maybe when we were younger. You know what I mean? I don't think people see somebody who's tattooed and automatically make a judgment call that they are a drug user or
Sure.
or a biker or whatever, right? I because there's so many people that are tattooed that are none of those things. Right.
I just don't piss off the guy with the teardrop tattoo. That's all I don't judge. I just know
Right.
to, stay in my lane. That's
right.
all.
Right. Yeah. And I think there are also, there are also still things that within the tattoo culture that have very specific meanings. Right. So,
Sure.
If you're new to getting tattoos, do your research so you don't go out there and get a tattoo that may be offensive or that may mean something that you don't want it to mean. You know what I mean? I mean, I'll give you a perfect example.
You got a tramp stamp?
I don't have a tramp stamp.
Oh,
No.
okay. I was hoping that might be the example.
No, but the spider web on the elbow tattoo, right? That there's a very specific prison reference to spider webs on the elbows, and I've seen people with those that I know for sure have not been to prison and have not gotten that tattoo in prison.
Gotcha.
And that's there's a very specific prison reference. Like you said, the teardrop tattoo.
Right.
There's other facial tattoos like that have very specific references. And so, know a little bit about the culture before you go out there and get,
Sure.
Scooby-Doo tattooed on your wiener and, and know what you're getting yourself into. So,
Yeah, nice. I was wondering how long it would take before we had a tattoo on the wiener joke.
yeah, well, you just got it right there.
There we go. 2258. Got it. All right,
Yeah.
cool. So how old were you when you got your first tattoo?
22.
22.
Yep. So it was on my birthday's July 22nd. It was on my golden birthday actually. So
nice. So do you regret getting that tattoo now?
that particular one,
Yes.
I regret the colors of it because it literally doesn't have color anymore because I use like really bright, vibrant colors. So it's like oranges and yellows. Well, I didn't know on my pasty white skin that oranges and yellows pretty much bleach out. So there's no color in it at all anymore.
Gotcha.
So it looks like an outline. So at some point in time, I'm going to have something done with it. It'll probably have to be recolored and re-inked and that kind of stuff. And so I'll have to do something with it eventually. But I have other tattoos that I would say that I regret more than that one, but not regret as much as I'm like, yep. There, so I started getting tattoos in the 90s when tribal was really big. And so I have a number of tribal tattoos that didn't age well, and only age well because they mark a very specific time in tattoo culture. And so you see people with tribal tattoos and you're like, oh, it's like the armband tattoo, right?
Yeah.
Like you know that somebody got tattooed in the late 90s, early 2000s if they have an armband or a barbed wire tattoo, right?
Yes, barbed wire, absolutely.
Right. And the other thing I always thought was funny about the barbed wire is people that have barbed wire, but then they don't have it all the way around because they couldn't do the inside of the arm part of the tattoo because it hurt too bad. Right. So it's kind of like, and then when you get a sleeve, like, so there's a spot in your arm, like the ditch, they call it the ditch of your arm where your elbow bends. And so when I was getting the tattoo the last time, I was doing whatever, and the tattooist was like, well, she's like, well, you have your ditch tattooed, so you're fine. We don't have anything to worry about because it's a pretty painful spot, right? I have both the inside of my arms tattooed. That's not any fun at all. So, and honestly, the reason what made me think about all this is that I completed the upper part of my arm sleeve about 3 weeks ago, and I have my next appointment this week to finish the inside of my arm.
Nice. Okay.
So my right sleeve will be done, officially done whenever, like on Thursday. So like Thursday by probably 8:00 that night, my right sleeve will be done. So, and well, and here's the thing. I remembered when I started like my quote unquote tattoo journey, and I remember saying to myself that I wanted to do that. Like I wanted a sleeve at some point in my time in my life. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was in my mid 40s before I broke the elbow barrier.
Okay.
So, but once I did, it was all over, right? Once I like got that first one below my elbow, then it was like within 9 months I had half of that arm covered. So yeah, I kind of went.
I was 44 before I broke went below my elbow.
Yeah,
because of work and just making sure that I could still pull off a polo. And then as I alluded to earlier, as time went on and everything became a little more accepting and easygoing, like, all right, I can go below the elbow. Who cares anymore? So
right. Well, and I think once you get established in your profession and you have a certain amount of, like professional credentials that, if I was 25 years old and I look like this, it might affect my ability to get a job, right?
Sure, yeah.
But at nearly 50 with a full beard and long hair and sleeve tattoos, it really didn't have any effect. And I was actually a little worried about it because I had done a few interviews for the job I was in this time around. And I was on the phone, and I said to the HR manager, she was talking about something, and she said something about being a pretty conservative company, and I was like, oh boy. I said, well, full transparency, like I'm fully sleeved, right? And she goes, oh, we all know that. She said that's no one cares, and nice. So and in fact, the owner of the company kind of teased me the other day about it because we're like sitting around this table of all of the leaders in the company, and I'm the only one with like legitimately visible tattoos that the only way you can cover mine up is if I wear long pants and long sleeves, right?
Sure.
And he kind of was teasing me about it, but it wasn't in a way that was offensive. He was just, you know what I mean, kind of teasing me. But more oftentimes than not, I think people are curious. What does it mean? Does it have meaning, or does it have no meaning? That kind of stuff. And I mean, and I was also one of those guys that said I would never get a skull tattoo. Right.
Okay.
I was like, I'll never get a skull tattoo. I got 2 skull tattoos in 1 year. Right. So
never say never,
dude. Yeah. Like I just started throwing it all out the window, and I don't.
No regrets. No,
absolutely not. Well, I don't. Yeah, exactly. I don't regret them at all. In fact, one of them is just such. It's really good artwork. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. It's really great, and it has so much meaning because it was the logo to a bike giveaway that I was involved in.
Sure.
And so it's I think that there's a time and a place, but I also think it's not for everyone.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so I was 31 before I got my first tattoo. I was hell-bent on making sure I knew what I wanted on my body the rest of my life and not regret a tattoo. And so I got a really small tattoo on my right shoulder blade. So little bitty artwork on a real big canvas. And that's the only regret I have about that one. And it's since been covered up because of that was just too much canvas area to just have a little bitty University of Tennessee Power Tee. So but for me it was just figuring out what I wanted. And so from there it was started on my back with stuff from back home in Tennessee, and then right arm, top half of the sleeve there was for my daughter. But I think the cool one, one of the coolest ones, my left half sleeve, is for my late uncle, who I own his Heritage, my first Harley. His ashes are in the black ink.
Oh, wow.
That tattooed it. So, in the tattoo. So he's always with me, whether he wants to be or not. He's always with me. And so he was also a hot air balloon pilot. So I have, his first hot air balloon flying over the Smokies, and then the FAA number on the inside of my arm. And that one's always fun. And the look I get on people's face when I tell them, his ashes are in the ink, to your point, people often are just curious nowadays, not judging, just curious what they mean. And I share that, and it's like, I didn't even know that was possible. And I was like, well, I didn't until about a week before I got it done. So that was not on the radar. The tattoo was not the ashes. And then I actually had to buy the artwork from one tattoo artist to give it to another, because the guy that originally did the artwork didn't want to put ashes in the ink, which is fine, even in the black ink. So I was like, well, can I buy this from you, let him do his thing with it, but I got to take it. He was super understanding, super great guy, so it worked out well. But yeah, they're addicting. I'm ready for more, that's for sure. I want to complete my right arm for sure. Yeah. Hopefully later this year.
I think it's all the funny story to me is the question you always get, does it hurt? Of course it hurts. Like I've never been one of those people that's like, nah, it doesn't hurt at all. I'm like, yep, it hurts. It's like someone dragging a blade across your a body, right, and then jabbing you thousands of times with a needle. I'm like, of course it hurts. Yeah. Like I said, tattoos are something you have to earn. They don't come free of charge. They don't come free of pain. Right. But it's kind of like, I think, for like women always say like that childbirth pain is the easiest pain to forget, because you have this child, and like, you don't remember how bad it hurt when you have it. I think tattoo pain is very similar. Right. It hurts. But then like when you're done, you're like, oh, I want to do it again. Right. Yeah.
Except when you can't, the only thing I would challenge with you on that is the ones on my back. I sometimes forget I have them because I never see them. So yeah. Now that being said, though, I don't really remember the pain. When someone brings it up, oh yeah, a couple spots hurt like hell, and you just move on. But yeah.
Right.
But those, like you said earlier, the inside of the arms, upper arms,
yep,
that'll get you.
Yeah, for sure. And like near the elbow, yeah, it's like somebody's driving a nail into your arm. Yeah, that's not a lot of fun. I have like an empty space, right? So I'm
spider web.
Yeah. Well, when I go in, we're gonna finish the filler, but I'm putting like a spark plug, but I'm not covering my elbow. We're gonna leave the elbow empty with intent, because I don't want to. I don't want to do it. I don't want to be involved in it. It hurts like a son of a bitch. And so I'm not doing it. I'm just going to leave it empty, intentionally leave it empty, right? It's going to be...
It's like your collarbone.
With intent, yeah. Right, it's going to be with intent. So, yeah. So it's one of those things, but I think it's... and I think that the good segue into this is this, or another good segue would be, I think that we should at some point bring a tattooist on the show that is, doing the tattoos, and have them explain how they think it's changed, right? Because they're the ones making a living off it. They're the ones doing the art. They're the ones, tell us how you think it's changed. And so if there's any tattoo artists out there, or somebody knows a tattoo artist that you want us to bring on, hit us up, let us know, because we'd love to hear who you think we should have on. Be realistic, right? We can't get Kat Von D on. She's not going to come on our podcast, right? So, but I think it would be great to talk to somebody who is an expert, because I am not an expert. I have an opinion, and I think I've eclipsed that. I have a couple tattoos landmark, and so. From that standpoint.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to hear, like, obviously more people are getting tattoos. I'm sure there's a lot more tattoo artists out there now as well. So what does that look like? Help us understand that industry a little more. I'd be curious to learn more.
And I think that there are tattoo artists who were artists first and then learned to tattoo, which I think is something that's changed a little bit too. But you know, the other thing I think is an interesting scenario there is, and I tell this people, I tell the story to people because I think that there's value in it, which is I got married when I was 20. I got my first tattoo when I was 22, and now I'm fully sleeved, right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I the same person that my wife married when I was 20 years old?
I hope not.
Right, but I will tell you that, you know, my wife has even fielded questions from people that she works with about, oh, well, what do you think about his beard? What do you think about his long hair? What do you think about his tattoos, right? And my wife's like, well, whether my husband has a long beard or long hair or tattoos has no reflection on me, does it?
Sure.
Like, do you think something differently about me because that's the way my husband looks? Or do you think something different about him because that's the way he looks? Is he not a good father or a good husband because these things are true about him? But those ideas still exist in the world. Well, sure, as much as it's become acceptable, it's still faux pas.
Well, people are going to discriminate in some way, form, or fashion. That, unfortunately, that's always going to happen. Whether it's skin color or religious beliefs, or if you got tattoos or a long hair or a beard or a weird accent, whatever the case may be. That, unfortunately, that's something our world, not just society, will deal with probably for at least longer than I'm alive. That's for sure.
Right. I just think, to me, I just found that the idea of that interesting because I really honestly, if I'm being honest, I really never gave much thought into what somebody might perceive about my family because I looked a certain way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know the type of father that I think I am. I know the type of husband that I think I am. I know what I mean from what value I bring from a professional standpoint in my profession, in my chosen profession. And none of those things have any reflection on whether or not I have a beard or a long hair or tattoos or anything, right? But I think that, you know, if you want to know what people think about that, you know, go to the grocery store and all your biker gear, right? Your cosplay, and walk through a grocery store, you know, and
Sure.
you're occasionally going to get that like person who clutches their purse or pulls their child closer. It's a reality of it. It's the reality of that those, like you said, those perceptions still exist in the world. And I actually have used it as maybe even a defense mechanism, like it's a little bit of armor. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, you know, I have a full beard, I have long hair, I'm tattooed. If I don't really want people to talk to me, I can put a look on my face that makes me very unapproachable. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
I'm a big guy, you know, I'm 6'3" and 245 pounds. I can be very unapproachable. And that doesn't mean that I am, but it just means that I can look like don't come talk to me. You know what I mean? And I think that can be a defense mechanism at times to, you know, to just be like, hey, like I need my space. So like you can tell by looking at me that I'm not someone that you should walk over and just have a conversation with.
Yeah, I mean, body language goes a long way, right? And so hopefully if you're not in the communicating mood or the one of people in that very moment, hopefully folks can read that body language. For me, gas stations are great. If I'm going inside, I'll fill up at the pump. I will park in a regular parking spot, and I hope to see a kid come by and ask him if he wants to start my bike for me, you know, and do things like that. I love that part, but I'd rather talk to the kids than the adults 9 times out of 10.
Well, and there's this phenomenon that happens on motorcycling too that's different from when you're traveling by car. You can go to 10 gas stations in your car and no one will say one single word to you. You go to 10 gas stations on your motorcycle, and 8 of those 10, someone's going to ask you where you're going to. They're
Sure.
going to comment on your bike. They're going to ask you, so say you're in Missouri and your license plate says North Dakota. Oh, where are you coming from? Where are you going to? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just recently, I actually heard a female biker talk about how when she's approached like that, she will lie to the person
Yeah.
asking the question. And I had
Sure.
never even considered that. And then I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I guess that's probably real. Like, you probably don't want some creeper following you around if you told them you're 500 miles from home and you have 500 miles to go.
Yeah.
I never considered it. And
Yeah.
so, and actually I've kind of followed that same rule. I stopped telling people, or I'll lie. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
I've stopped telling people where I'm going, how long I've been gone, that kind of stuff, or yep, I got a ways to go before I get where I'm going. You know what I mean? Or just whatever it might be, because you just never know, right? I mean, the easiest way to not make yourself a target is to not make yourself a target.
Yeah. I mean, information is a powerful thing. So something like that with your safety, giving the wrong information is not a bad thing at all.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I haven't thought. I mean, I know who you're talking about, and same as you, I had never even considered that, but it's something I'd probably need to keep more top of mind and probably share with my daughter when she starts driving or even just walking around the neighborhood.
Yeah. I think it's important. Or they ask you that question. Oh, are you alone? No, my dad's coming around the block right now. He had to drop off the keys. Like that kind of stuff. These innocuous questions. We teach our children to be open. We teach them to be friendly. But
Sure.
do we teach them to be defensive? Do we teach them that maybe sometimes people don't have the best intentions? Do we
Right.
teach them to not take candy from a stranger? I mean, it sounds like a silly joke, but dude, have you ever seen those surveys where they drive around with a truck and they ask kids if they can help them find their puppies, and 80% of kids just get the fuck in the truck?
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's ridiculous. We know you're not supposed to get in a truck with strangers, and as soon as somebody's puppy's lost, everybody's getting in the fucking truck.
yeah. Sophia better never do that. And the answer should be, my dad. That'll be in just a second. He forgot his gun. Or something like that.
Right. Or, I'm sorry you lost your puppy. I have diarrhea. I got to go home.
I'm sorry, I just shit my pants. I got to
Yeah, exactly. It's just, it's that's such a weird phenomenon. But anyway, I digressed away from tattoos. So,
That's all right.
we said it before. We'll say it again. Hit us up in the comments if you have somebody that you want us to bring on, because Luke and I talked about it. We want to delve deeper into this topic because there's more to it that we don't know, because we're not tattooists. We are tattooed people, right? We have tattoos. We kind of are kind of a little bit more in tune to that culture.
We sit in the chair. We don't sit next to the chair.
Right,
So
exactly.
Teach us.
Exactly. And so if you know somebody or have somebody out there that you want us to bring on a future episode to talk about it, we really want this to kind of be kind of a part one. Tattoo culture,
Sure.
I think, is going to be the name of this episode, and we're going to do it as a part 1 of 2, or a part 1 of 2 of 3, or whatever.
Sure.
But just that we can bring it back, because it has changed, right? The what's acceptable in the professional world, what's acceptable in society, and we didn't even really talk about piercings. I mean, we were talking about tattoos, but piercings have changed too.
Yeah. I have no piercings. So, did you ever have?
So you never went through a piercing phase? I have both.
No. I don't have any at this moment in time. Today,
Oh.
I do not have any.
Oh, okay.
I have had piercings before.
Yeah.
I've had my ear pierced, and I had my tongue pierced for a while.
Wow. Okay, that was unexpected. I would not have said that.
Yeah,
that one was unexpected.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
So
That's a visual I didn't want to have either.
It's a memory I could easily forget. I wish. But yeah, it's something I tried in college.
Okay.
For I
bet you did.
About a year and a half. I did. And asshole. And Yeah, it was nothing. It wasn't anything cracked up to be, but it sure it hurt like hell. And funny part was I didn't think it through, so I got it done. I mean, I don't even think anything through in college, but got it done on a Saturday, and then the worst day was Monday, and I was a bill collector, so I had to talk on the phone, and I couldn't talk. I sounded, I had to go home. I couldn't even work. So,
Sure.
good times. What
Sure.
about you? Piercings?
Yeah, I had both my ears pierced for
Okay.
actually for quite a while. In fact, my ears are pierced in my wedding pictures.
Okay.
And so I was like a straight up child from the 90s. So I did the one in the right ear and two in the left ear for a long time, and I had
Okay.
hoops. I never did gauges or anything like that. My ears are still pierced to this day. I wore them for a really long time.
Okay.
I'm kind of trying to think. I started my first job in imaging. I mean, I probably wore them into my mid 20s for sure.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I had earrings for a long time.
Okay.
Probably from 17, 18 years old to mid to late 20s. I think I wore them a little bit in the 2000s after I graduated from X-ray school. I had them for a long time, a really long time.
We like to call this segment "Get to Know Luke and Ryan." So,
Yeah, right, for sure. But yeah, no, I did, and in fact, both of my ears are still pierced. I mean, I can still get an earring through them down. In fact, my daughters want to be funny every once in a while and put earrings in my ears just so they can see what it's like. But
That's hilarious.
But yeah, no, it's and I've thought about it again from time to time. Like, should I just start wearing an earring again? But I don't. But
Don't. Just don't.
yeah,
Don't.
I for me, it's kind of one of those things where, like, occasionally you'll see somebody, Harrison, who is it? Harrison Ford.
Oh,
Harrison
yeah,
Ford
yeah.
has an ear piercing,
And Morgan Freeman.
and Morgan Freeman does, right?
Yeah.
Occasionally you see somebody that's older, and you're like,
Yeah.
I could pull that off.
And,
Like,
because we're in the same genre and like same status as those two guys. for
Absolutely.
sure. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
yeah, I mean, Harrison Ford was a blue collar guy for a while, right? He worked in construction. He was like a woodworker. He worked in construction for a while, right? Before he became Luke Skywalker, he was like a woodworker.
Oh boy. Then he became a rancher out at the Yellowstone. But whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I think is that a wrap? I think we covered as about what we can.
There is, but there's a couple other things I want to mention. Actually, there's probably three other things, but they don't have anything to do with the topic, but just things I want to throw out there. Number one, if you like what we're doing, if you would consider it, support us on Patreon. Even if you don't want to do that, join our Discord. Our Discord's growing. We have lots of cool people on there. The more people that join, the more active it becomes. Everybody on there has been, good and respectful and good to have on board. So, join the Discord. The Discord's free. It doesn't cost you a thing to join the Discord. Patreon is obviously if you feel like supporting us further. The second thing I wanted to mention is, and I want to clarify this first, but we all are wearing merch right now. So Luke has a MotoState podcast hat on. We do have merch for sale on our website, so you can go check that out. But Luke has another shirt on. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but is that or is that not a Peripheral Apparel shirt?
It is a Peripheral Apparel shirt that is high vis.
High vis. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about this shirt because I know about it because I've talked to Alicia. So his shirt's white. But if he was riding it on his bike, all those little dots that say PA reflect in the light.
Yeah.
And is yours the ones that reflect different colors?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, so all of those are going to be like highlighted colors, like pink and yellow and green when he gets hit with headlights if he's riding that on his motorcycle. Super dope shirts that they have. The high vis shirts are really cool. Even though that one just looks like white with some logos on it, that shit is like a beacon.
Well, and all their stuff is high vis. So gloves, which I also have, hoodies, you name it, all of it's high vis. I've got shoelaces in my high tops that are high vis from them. So
nice.
I got a little bit of everything. Yeah.
Yep. And I have one of the riding shirts that is like the stretchy ones that pulls over your has the thumb holes in it.
Yeah.
Which I really like. The one that has the checkerboard on the sleeves, which is also high vis.
I was wearing it yesterday.
Yep. So and I wear those all the time, even when I'm not riding at night. I think that they're extremely valuable. So that's good. And then the other shirt I have on, so just in case you can or can't see, if you can't see us and you're listening to us on YouTube, go check us. Or if you're just listening to us, go check us out on YouTube. But I have a Wild Ass shirt on.
Nice.
You might know that, and these designs were drawn by the owner's wife. So very cool. They got a bunch of cool designs. So Wild Ass obviously is a seat pad company. If you don't know, I have endorsed this product for a long time. I say what you want to about how they look on your bike. I don't give a shit about that. If you don't like it, fuck off. But I use it because it enables me to ride long distances with no ass fatigue, no soreness, no overheating, all of the things that people get on seats. I endorse that seat, but they have other stuff. So if you want to support them and you don't want to buy a seat, but they got cool shirts. They got all kinds of things on their website, hats and sweatshirts, and their hoodies. They have the super dope hoodie, man. They have a hoodie that has the front pocket where you put your hands to keep your hands warm, and then another secret pocket in the front where you can slide your beer bottle.
Nice.
Yeah,
I like this.
Yeah. It's a pretty cool little thing that they have, but I just wanted to make mention because we are not sponsored by either one of these companies, but we are supporters of them, and we were wearing that. So
yeah, and I will say that if you look back to the previous episodes and ones going forward, and I'm sure Ryan's going to do the same thing, we're going to be wearing T-shirts and hats either that say MotoState or companies that we support. And my first one I think was the Brother shirt from Tobacco Motorwear, and they make some really great stuff. I had Tennessee Dream Rides out of Maryville, Tennessee. They build some badass bikes. Those guys are great. Got to ride with them last month. Last week was Left Lane Syndicate. Those solid dudes, and got some really cool merch out there. Some really cool stickers as well. Peripheral Apparel, and we'll see what next week is. And listen, if you guys are listening and you are you're in the biking community, hit me up and we'll send me a shirt. I'll be happy to wear it and support you guys as well.
Yeah, and I think I had, I'm trying to think, Thrash and Supply I had on one time.
Yep.
For one of our recordings, I had Sassy Pants' motorcycle shirt, which is one of my favorites because it generates so much conversation, which I absolutely love. Such genius shirt, genius. Love it.
Yep.
And she's just a really cool chick. I've talked to her before, so. And Alicia, obviously, who we both know, Peripheral Apparel. So if you don't know Peripheral Apparel, I'm just going to give her a shout out anyway because her story's great. What brought her to High Vis is great. We will have Alicia on at some point. Luke and I have already talked about that. We know she'll come on. Just a really, really cool chick with a really cool story and, has a side hustle business of some stuff that's really great. And so, get out and support small businesses in the biker community because those small businesses are the lifeblood of our community.
They are. Without them, this community isn't half of what it is today. So.
Right, and without them, I would have probably half as many shirts to wear. So there you go.
Yeah, I'd have to do laundry more often. That sucks.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man.
Guys. Well, appreciate everyone tuning in and listening. Don't follow us on the socials. Throw us some money if you can because, we got motorcycle parts and shit to buy. Just kidding.
Shit. Motorcycle parts and shit to buy. We got to keep the lights on. And as you can see,
right.
It's getting dark in my room already. So
pay your bills. Jeez.
This shit ain't free.
That's right. Oh, and make sure you grab one of our new shirts on the merch store. This shit ain't free. Man, after that first episode, everyone wanted one of those shirts. So I made one up and threw it on the merch store. So if you guys enjoy them, it's going to be a limited run. So grab one while you can.
There you go.
All right, guys.
All right. We out.
See you next week.